Yeah, I don't know. I don't care. Just factor. X squared minus 7x minus 18. Is there a common factor that I need to take out of all of these guys? No. So if I try to break this guy down, how are you going to break down the x squared? You're going to use x times x. What about your signs? Because you have to multiply to get a negative. And this is one of the things you need to remember. It's this constant term right here that gets broken up to be in the last pieces of your factors. That's the guy you're breaking up. How do you multiply to get a negative 18?
Negative times a positive.
You need a negative times a positive. Do you all agree?
Positive times a negative either.
Or positive times a negative. It doesn't really matter. Because again, this is multiplication, so the order's not going to matter so much. Now, notice in the other examples that we ran across. Okay. These had the same sign, so you combine 2 and 5 to get 7. These had the same sign, you combine 8 and 3 to get 11. These had the same sign, although they were negatives, but you still combine a 5 and 10 to get a negative 15, right? But it's going to be a little bit different when I'm looking at this. Because these guys have opposite signs. What do you do with numbers when their signs are opposite? How do you combine them?
Order matters.
Order doesn't really matter.
Well, if you have 9, because 9 and 2, 9 times 2 is 18, and negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. Yep.
Right. So I guess what you're saying here, the order does matter. But I'm talking about in terms of the numbers. What we're looking for when you have a positive and a negative, when you combine a positive and negative, you have to subtract them, right?
Yeah.
So here you're looking for factors of 18 where the difference is 7. Now if you want to end up with a negative 7, what does that tell you about these guys right here? The larger number is negative if you're going to end up negative, right? Which means if I do a minus 9 and a plus 2, that's going to work out. Do you all agree?
Yes.
So that still gives me negative 18 when you multiply. But when you do the inside piece, you get negative 9x. What's on the outside? Plus 2x. So a positive and a negative. Keep the sign of the larger number, and you subtract those guys. So that's a negative 7x.
So whatever the sign of the last number is, that will determine how you're going to factor and multiply it to get the middle number?
Exactly. Because the x squared is the first term. It comes from multiplying the first guys, right? The constant comes from multiplying these last two pieces. So whatever sign you have here has to be incorporated when you break that guy up. Okay. Let's try another one. If I do x squared plus x minus 56. Is there a common factor to take out of everybody? Nope. So this is a trinomial. I expect it to factor as 2 binomial factors. Start with the easy piece. What do you know?
X times
X squared is going to break down at the beginning to be x times x. Now I'm trying to break down this constant here, this negative 56, and his factors will populate the last piece of each of these binomials. But how do you multiply to get a negative number? Positive times negative or negative times positive doesn't really matter? No. But now, since these guys have opposite signs, I need to make sure that the two factors I use, they can't add up to give me 1, but they're going to have a difference of 1. So what numbers will I use? 7 and 8, right? Isn't 7 times 8 56? Now, these guys, the difference is going to give me the 1 that I'm looking for here. Now, but where do these numbers go?
7 first. Oh,
It's a positive 8, but a minus 7. Why is it that way?
just so you get a positive 1.
I need to get the positive 1, right? What if I had these guys switched and I said plus 7, but minus 8? I'd have a negative 1x in the middle, and I don't want that. So when I check this, on the inside I get a plus 8x minus 7x on the outside, and that's just a plain positive 1x, and that's what I was looking for. What do you guys think about that? Almost happy? Yes, don't ever claim happiness in this classroom. X squared minus 2xy minus 35y squared. Is there a common factor? Is there a common factor to take out? No. You might think x, but the last term doesn't contain an x. You may think y, but the first term doesn't contain a y. But I say this problem is a lot like all the other ones that we've already been doing. How do you break down x squared? How do you break down this first piece? X times x. What do you know about your signs?
We have negative, positive.
Positive and a negative to get this negative, right? Okay. Now, look at this negative 35y squared. If I'm trying to break this guy down, you don't have to break down the 35, but I should also break down the y squared. How do you think you would break down the y squared? Split up those factors just like you split up the x squared as x times x. So we'll use y times y. And what about the factors for 35?
5 times 2.
7.
So which one goes where?
Plus
7 is negative 5.
Minus 5 plus 2.
So it's negative 7, but a plus 5? Like that?
Wait, can't you do negative 5 plus 2 and because it equals negative 2? Right? Wait.
Write down what you're saying.
5. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now check this. X times x is of course x squared. Positive 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. Y times y gives you the y squared part for that term. On the inside here is a positive 5xy. On the outside, x times negative 7y is negative 7xy. So it gives me a combined negative 2xy. Do y'all agree?